We've all had it happen. You're repairing your car or fixing something around your house. You have a bolt. You know exactly what size millimeter you need for this bolt. In this case, this example I'm using is a 10 millimeter bolt. The perfect tool for this is to take a ratchet with a 10 millimeter socket, stick it on the head of that, and just twist it loose. And then when you need to put it back on there, just re-engage it. But what if you forgot your ratchet? What are you going to do then? We've all had to pull out one of these. And this is not perfect. This does not do the job smoothly. Your hands might hurt at the end, but it gets the job done nonetheless. You stick that bad boy on there, and even if your hands are cramped or you strip the bolt a little bit, you're still able to get it off and get it on. The point I'm making is nothing is perfect, and imperfect people make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, and nobody remembers every single word of Spanish perfectly. So when you have a situation where you forgot exactly how to conjugate that verb, or you forgot the exact word you're looking for, what are you going to do? You're still going to get your point across, right? So that's what we're going to talk about today. That is called circumlocution. Circumlocution is when you forget the exact word that you're looking for, so you use other words that have a similar meaning to get your point across. And nowhere is that more important than with the subjunctive in Spanish. Now, I already have a playlist that will help you with the subjunctive in case you're not sure what it is or how to use it. Go to my YouTube channel, look at my playlists. I have a playlist called Aprendamos Español Advanced Course, and in that video I have several, in that playlist I have several videos that teach you how to do the subjunctive. But that's not what we're going to do today. Today I have a list of 12 types of phrases you can use to get away without using the subjunctive. All you really need to know for this is past tense, present tense, future tense, and some conditional tense. If you've got that down, you can pretty much get most points across in Spanish without really using the subjunctive. So in this, I'm going to go through all 12 of these examples and show you ways that you can speak subjunctive-free Spanish. Now, it's important to remember that just like if you were to use the pliers instead of the ratchet, of course, you might strip the bolt a little bit. It might cramp your hand. If you use these methods instead of using the actual subjunctive, it might sound a little awkward, or you might lose a little bit of meaning, but you're still going to get your point across. Just like you would still strip off the bolt with the pliers, it just wouldn't be perfectly. So let's get started with these subjunctive alternatives. The first one we have up here is deber. Deber. Now, deber means should or ought to in Spanish, and you use it to express obligation. But did you know that you also use the subjunctive to express obligation? Here's an example of a statement that's in the subjunctive, okay? Quiero que vengas a mi fiesta. Excuse the bad handwriting. Quiero que vengas a mi fiesta means I want that you come to my party. That's how they would say in Spanish, I want you to come to my party, right? Now, this right here is the subjunctive, okay? What if you forgot how to use the subjunctive? Deber can help you out. Watch this. So this is the subjunctive, right? Now let's down here do it without the subjunctive. Debes venir a mi fiesta. Notice I use deber. This means I want you to come to my party, right? You would have to use a subjunctive there, but this one just means you should come to my party, or you ought to come to my party. Do you see how in this example I'm expressing the same idea as this, right? The reason why you would put that in the subjunctive is because you're trying to influence another person's actions. They haven't actually come to your party yet. It's sort of a hypothetical, but here we're just skipping all that and we're just using deber as the verb to influence the person, and then just putting the infinitive of what action we want them to do. Let me give you another example using that type of logic. Let's use another one, okay? How about if they say this, okay? Ella quiere que yo lo haga, okay? Ella quiere que yo lo haga. Obviously, this is our subjunctive, right? She wants that I do it. Or in other words, she wants me to do it, right? This is a subjunctive statement. I haven't actually committed the action yet. It's in a hypothetical. It's something they want me to do. That's why it's in the subjunctive. I haven't actually done it, right? So if I said, ella quiere que yo lo haga, she wants me to do it. It's kind of a mouthful, right? Can we express this same thing using deber or something else up here? Sure we can. Watch this. Ella, let me put my line here, separating it. Dice que yo debo hacerlo. Okay? Ella dice que yo debo hacerlo. She says that I should do, right? It's in the yo form. Deber's in the yo form now because I'm the one who's having to do this. Ella dice que yo debo hacerlo. She says that I should do it, right? She wants me to do it, or she says that I should do it. Now, we lost a little meaning here because here we've added talking, the verb to say, which is decir. Well, up here, it's just talking about her desire, right? But here, we had to sort of get around using querer que, which is a subjunctive trigger. Instead, we say decir que, and then just almost make like a quote or something like that. Ella dice que yo debo hacerlo. So that's just sort of a way of getting around it. Whatever form deber is in, it's going to match the person who's being made to do the action. Okay? So that's just another example. Now, how about this one? The subjunctive is also used to express influence, right? Like when somebody has been made to do something. Actually, before I get into that, that would be example 3. Let me go back up to example 2. Example 2 right here, the verb necesitar. Necesitar means to need to, right? Now, I would use this if I forgot my command forms. For example, the verb comer means to eat. If I'm trying to tell you eat up, I would say something like this. I'm going to say, if I'm trying to tell you eat breakfast, I would say, I'm going to use the usted command form. Coma el desayuno, okay? Coma el desayuno. This is me issuing a command. Coma means eat up, right? It's not eat in the sense of I am eating. It's when you're actually trying to compel someone to eat. It's a command form. So, coma el desayuno means eat breakfast, right? Desayuno is breakfast. Coma el desayuno. This is subjunctive because I'm trying to make somebody do something. Now, can we get away with not using the subjunctive here? Yes, we can. We'll lose a little meaning, but we'll still make the point. Watch this. Necesitas comer el desayuno. Now here, when we say necesitas comer el desayuno, we're saying you need to eat breakfast, okay? That's supposed to be an O. My O's are really sloppy. You need to eat breakfast. Now, this doesn't have the exact same force as a command where I'm sort of putting the stress on it or the emphasis, but I'm still getting the point across. I'm still expressing my desire that you do something. So that's another one. So deber and necesitar, 60% of the time, will get you out of having to use the subjunctive, or at least the present subjunctive. So let's move on to another example where you would use the subjunctive, but we're just going to use the indicative. Here we have hacer plus a plus the infinitive. That's going to be a very useful one. Watch this. If I were to say Marco hizo que nosotros hiciéramos la tarea. Boy, we got a mouthful here. Okay, and I'm forgetting my R. Lovely. Here we go. Marco hizo que nosotros hiciéramos la tarea. This is past subjunctive. This is something you'd probably learn in Spanish 4? Maybe the end of Spanish 3 if you're taking an honors course or something like that. But what does it mean? Marcus made that we did the homework. Or in other words, Marcus made us do our homework. This is another example of when you're expressing influence, when somebody is making somebody do something. The action that I was made to do is going to be in the subjunctive because it wasn't my will to do it. I was made to do it. It was somebody else's will imposed upon me. That's why it's in the subjunctive. Now, this is a mouthful. In the past subjunctive, a lot of people get nervous conjugating this because the way it's taught is that it's based on the ellos ending in the preterite, Aaron, because hicieron is preterite for they did, right? Or you would take that off and then you would add the proper subjunctive ending, hiciéramos, okay? Which the amos is because we are the ones who had to do it. But the point is, can we express this thought without the subjunctive? And again, of course we can. Watch this. This one's kind of awkward, but it actually gets the point across. I guarantee you, if you were to say this one down here to a native speaker, they would understand that this is really what you meant. Marco nos hizo a hacer la tarea. Marcus made us to do. Notice, instead of putting this in the subjunctive, we left it in the infinitive, right? Marcus made us to do the homework. Now, it's important. Whenever you have this, the person that's being influenced, you have to use the indirect object pronoun that fits with them. The me, te, le, nos, os, les. You have to remember which one matches the influenced person. So Marcos nos hizo a hacer la tarea. I'm going to do another example with this one just to make sure that we're getting it. And my lamp just fell over. But let me give you another example. So I want to show you guys, Spanish is not that hard. And even if you forget your subjunctive, you should still be able to get through with these examples. Let me give you another one on the hacer plus a plus infinitive format. Watch this. Me Actually, here we go. So, ellos hicieron que yo cantara. They made me sing. They made that I sang. Past subjunctive. Again, this is in the subjunctive because it wasn't my will to sing. It was someone else's will that was influenced upon me. So the verb of that was influenced upon me is in the subjunctive. They made that I sang. Again, a mouthful, right? We can get away without the subjunctive. And I kind of gave it away in my little slip up when I first wrote this sentence. Watch this. Ellos me hicieron. Notice we're pretty much replacing the pronoun with the subject pronoun with the indirect object pronoun. Ellos me hicieron a cantar. So this one says they made that I sang. This one means they made me to sing. Again, all we're really using here is preterite. We're using preterite here, the infinitive there. That's Spanish 2 stuff, y'all. So if all you took was level 1 and level 2, and you just brushed up a little bit, you could probably communicate effectively and bypass the subjunctive in getting your point across. Now, the one thing I will caution you about with that is that if you don't actually take the time to learn the subjunctive for yourself, if someone says a subjunctive phrase to you, you might struggle to decode what they're saying. But in terms of you getting your point across, look, we just did it, okay? This uses nothing but Spanish 2 level skills right here, and it's making the same point as the subjunctive. I hope the RAE watches this and realizes that the subjunctive is kind of unnecessary in Spanish, but that's a whole other point. All right, number 4. Probablemente. Probablemente. Now, what is that saying? That's saying probably, right? Now, think about this. In the subjunctive, we use it to express doubt. If we were to say something like this, watch. Es improbable que venga a mi fiesta. Okay? Es improbable que venga a mi fiesta. It is improbable that he's coming to the party, right? Because we're talking about a doubt, this phrase right here expresses doubt. Anything that comes after is in the subjunctive because, again, it's hypothetical. We don't know if the person is coming or isn't. We're expressing an uncertainty. But guess what? Here's a little trick with Spanish. If you're expressing a certainty, you use the indicative. You can bypass the subjunctive. You only, when you're using an uncertain phrase, use the subjunctive. But when you're using a phrase where you're saying it as a positive, as a certainty, you don't need it. So watch this. Probablemente no viene a mi fiesta. Instead of saying it's improbable that he comes, you're saying he's probably not coming. See, when you say probably, you don't need the subjunctive. But when you say improbably, you actually do need the subjunctive. So I take this negative quality and I kind of like factor it out. Almost think of it like a math problem. I kind of factored out the no and I stuck it right there, right? I factored out my no and made it a probable statement, and now I don't need the subjunctive. So instead of saying, if you say it's not probable that, then whatever verb is coming after it has to be in subjunctive. But if you say the person probably isn't, then you actually can just get away using the indicative. Let's move on here. That's a pretty straightforward example. I don't think I need to linger there too much. So, you also use the subjunctive when you're expressing praise or approval, right? Watch this. Es bueno que cantes. Es bueno que cantes. It is good that you sing. Now, the phrase that I am expressing approval of or disapproval of, that verb is in the subjunctive, okay? I could say, es malo que cantes. Es malo que cantes. Or es bueno que cantes. Is good that you sing, is bad. If I'm giving some sort of approval or disapproval of something, I would say it is good that or it is bad that, and whatever verb I'm criticizing, the verb that's being criticized goes in the subjunctive, okay? Because again, I am expressing my will upon that person by evaluating and critiquing their actions. I'm expressing whether or not their action was in my will or not in my will, right? So when it has to do with you putting your will upon someone else, subjunctive. So by me evaluating your action, I'm imposing my will on you in some way, right? So the verb that's getting imposed upon is in the subjunctive. But guess what? We can get away without using this. Watch this. We're going to take this and turn it into a noun, and then we can just bypass all of that. So, cantes comes from the verb cantar, which means to sing, right? What's the noun form of sing? It's this right here. Let me draw a line here. The noun form of the word to sing, y'all, is this. Canción. Canción. Canción means song. So cantar means to sing. Canción means song. So watch this. Me gusta tu canción. I like your song. Is it exactly the same as this? No. Because again, now we're talking about a particular song. But guess what? Me gustan tus canciones. We just made it plural. Me gustan tus canciones. I like your songs. Right? Now, I've made it broader. Now I'm expressing almost kind of like a parallel idea here. I like your songs. Or we could even go more specific. Watch this. Me gusta tu voz. Me gusta tu voz. I like your voice. Cuando cantas. I like your voice when you're singing. I like your voice when you're singing. Now, we've pretty much completely circumvented this and expressed the same exact idea. So the format there is me gusta plus the noun form of the action that they're performing. Okay, so these are just multiple examples of how to get around. And you could also flip this around and say, no me gusta tu voz, or, whatever. You could put a no me gusta or a me gusta. Just different ways to give criticism to somebody without having to use the subjunctive. Again, we're basically using everything that's in our toolbox here. How about this? Con and the quality of something. You use the subjunctive when you fantasize about things you don't have yet. The thing you don't have yet, its verbs go in the subjunctive. Watch this. Quiero un coche que tenga ruedas rojas. Okay? Now, again, this is kind of an outlandish example, but here's the point. Quiero un coche que tenga ruedas rojas means I want a car that has red wheels, right? Now, the car doesn't have them yet because I don't own the car yet, right? It's not in my possession yet. So this is a hypothetical. This is part of my will. It's what I want to happen, but it's not necessarily happening yet. So that's why this verb is in the subjunctive. But what if you forgot how to put tener in the subjunctive? Watch this. Let's just erase that. Boom. Quiero un coche. Oh, we're not done. Quiero un coche con ruedas rojas. I want a car with red wheels. So instead of saying, I want something, that has this or that has that, if you forgot how to put the verb has, which is tener, in the subjunctive, just use con and then talk about whatever quality that thing has that you want. But what if you want one that doesn't have it? Sin ruedas rojas, without red wheels. So I just hope that you guys understand the concept here. There are so many different tools that you can use at your disposal to get your point across, even if you forgot the subjunctive. Now let's move on here. I'm almost done. We're halfway through here, and these are all pretty quick. So we're back to replacing command forms again. Here's another example of a command form. Okay. Let's use a good example here. Let's use a common example. Let's say, escúchame. Listen to me. This is in the to form, the to subjunctive form, right? What if you forgot how to do that? Watch this. Here's a simple one. Es hora de means it's time to. So watch this. Es hora de escuchar. Es hora de escuchar. It's time to listen. So let's say you're a Spanish teacher. You're in front of your whole class. You're trying to tell them all to raise their hands, right? You would normally say, levanten las manos, right? That's how you would tell all of them to raise their hands at once. But what if you forgot how to conjugate levantar into the ustedes subjunctive form? You could just say, es hora de levantar las manos. Es hora de levantar las manos. It's time to raise hands. Okay? So you could use es hora de and then the infinitive of whatever action you want the person or people to perform. Let's move on. Let's try to get through these quickly here. Kind of running out of time. Now, another way to circumvent command forms is just use the infinitive. You could just say, for example, let's say I'm giving you instructions and I say, oprima el 9. Dial 9. Right? You're picking up a phone, you're dialing the number 9. You people that are of a similar age to me, remember when in schools, you were in school and you had to dial 9 to get out of the building, to call anyone outside of the building. If you forgot how to put oprimir in the subjunctive, you could just put in the infinitive. Oprimir el 9. Now, it doesn't have the exact same force as a command, but I'm still telling you what action to perform. Kind of sloppy. just like this. But you know what? This will get you through in a pinch. So let's move on. I am going to skip number 9 for now and come back to it. I want to get number 10 because number 10 is in the same family as number 7 and 8. It's replacing a command. Watch this. If I were to tell you to do something, like if I were to tell you, tome la medicina. Take the medicine. Tome is from the verb tomar, which means to take. It means take as if you're ingesting something like water or medicine, right? Tome la medicina. I'm giving you a command. Take the medicine. This is subjunctive. How can I get around this? What if I forget? I know that tomar means to take, but I just don't know how to subjunctive it. How do I get this person to do my... Watch this. Watch this. It's simple. You don't need subjunctive. Favor de tomar la medicina. Favor de basically means pretty please. And then you put the action in the infinitive. Favor de tomar la medicina means pretty please take the medicine. Now this one kind of comes off a little more like you're making supplication to them, like you're kind of begging them almost. Not quite that strong, but this one's kind of more pleading with them. This one's a command. This one's kind of pleading with them. But either way, you're telling them what you would want them to do. So you lose maybe 8% of your meaning here, but you're still getting your point across. So yes, you don't need the subjunctive for this one. Now let's go back to number 9. Says see plus outcome plus reaction. Now, the reason why we would use this is just in case, for example, we forgot how to express subjunctive commands, or we forgot how to express desire for somebody to do something. Like if I were to say this, deseo que no lo hagas. I desire that you don't do it, right? I desire that you don't do it, right? Mouthful. We can get around subjunctive on this one too. Watch this. Si no lo haces, if you don't do it, yo estaría muy contento. If you don't do it, I would be, this is conditional, very happy. If you don't do it, I'd be very happy. This is kind of sloppy, grammatically speaking. But you know what? It makes the same point. I don't want you to do it. Okay? Or we could even go one simpler than that. Watch this. Hacerlo, to do it, sería muy mal. To do it, right? This lo means it. I just attached it at the end of your infinitive because that's where it goes in Spanish. You got a lo or a la or something like that hanging around. Attach it to the end of your infinitive. To do it, hacerlo sería muy mal. To do it would be very bad. So if you know your conditional, you can sometimes kind of get around the subjunctive that way. Let's wrap this up. We're almost done here. Thank you for listening so patiently. So, number 11 says al plus the planned action. When might you need that? Well, sometimes in subjunctive, you use it to talk about events that haven't quite happened yet, but you're planning how you're going to respond to that event. Your response is in the subjunctive. Watch this. Vamos a comer cuando ella llegue a casa. Okay? We are going to eat when she arrives home. Right? We're going to eat when she arrives home. She hasn't actually arrived yet. So that's why we're using the subjunctive here. It's what we think will happen, but it hasn't actually happened yet. It's hypothetical. But you know what? We could totally fix this by putting al and putting the planned action. So what is the action that she's going to do? She's going to arrive, right? That comes from the verb llegar. Well, how can we fix this to where llegar is written as a noun, right? There's a word for arrive that means arrival, right? That's the noun form of this. So again, we're kind of doing the same trick of what we've done on one of these earlier ones. On what we did for number 5, we're turning the verb into a noun. The verb form is llegar, which means to arrive, but the noun form is llegará, which means arrival. So watch this. Vamos a comer al su llegada. We're going to eat upon her arrival, right? A casa. Upon her arrival home. So what you could easily do, if you know how to take each verb and say the noun version of it, then you can pretty much get around the subjunctive that way. And now the last example. Obligar. Obligar, which means to obligate. So I could say, yo hago que mis my handwriting is a mess. Estudiantes estudian. It actually be estudien because it's subjunctive. Yo hago que mis estudiantes estudien. I make my students study. Or I'm expressing obligation, right? Watch this. Les obligo a estudiar. Les means them, or to them, I obligate to study. I obligate them to study. Les obligo a estudiar a mis estudiantes. Here I'm just specifying who it is. But guess what? It's the same idea. I obligate them to study, my students, right? Or I make my students study. So these are just some tricks and tips that you can use to get around using the subjunctive. Yes, you could in theory express any thought that you needed to in Spanish without using the subjunctive. I have proven that just now. I hope I have reinforced your confidence and given you a new desire to do your best in Spanish. And just remember, just because you don't have this doesn't mean you can't make do with this. Take care, y'all, and suerte.